Welcome everybody. We'll continue to let people in as they join. I'm so glad you're here. So many friendly faces, some new faces, but I must say, I'm really pumped about the storytellers we have today. I was telling them backstage that I'm kind of a little, I mean, I loved all my storytellers from the first rally to now, but this one I'm kind of really nervous because I so love each and one of them, and I look up to every one of them, and some of them are my role models. So I'm like kind of shaking. It's like I'm really excited to have these guys, and they're kind of intimidating to me. So, but I love that they're here, each and every one of them. I love each and every one of you that continuously join this rally. Some of you have been past speakers as well. So I love you guys. Just wanted to start with that. Welcome to the 5th rally, and it's on Halloween. I was curious and I didn't know whether to hold one because Halloween, but that you guys proved it wrong. I'm so glad you're here. So today we're going to do the same thing as always. We have fabulous speakers. They get 7 to 10 minutes each. I'll introduce them as their time comes to speak. And again, as a reminder, you can stay muted during the whole rally. If you want to express your love or your connection to the speaker as they're saying things, or sometimes we get really vulnerable, and it takes courage to tell some of these stories, and you see that they need a little bit more heart so the speakers can keep talking. Please share a digital heart, or as I learned, you don't have to do old school and do this, but you can if you want. And let's keep it going. Again, the rally is to inspire and empower. So if you get something out of this, get some positive sparks, and then can pay it forward so you ignite flames all over the place in a good way, then that's what this rally is all about. I want to start off with this being Halloween, and it's a really, actually it's one of my favorite holidays, even though I don't dress up. So but I love it because of the mystery around it, the fun associated around it, and people just feel free. I've spoken to many that feel free to actually be themselves on this Halloween, whether that's good or bad. And it made me think, why wait for a specific holiday to come out and be yourself? Because why wait? I mean, you should be doing that every day. And it makes me wonder why we dress up maybe every single day to be someone that we're not. We're thinking about Halloween being dressed up, but think about your daily lives. Do you go about dressing up to satisfy how others believe you should act, or how others believe you should think, or how you should dress? I've had instances in my life that I've been labeled certain ways because I've been quiet and I've been shy, and I should dress a certain way, and I should get into certain careers. And when I've tried to deviate from that perspective of how others think of me, they are in shock. They think something's wrong with me. And I've gotten in the past fearful that I wouldn't be accepted or wouldn't belong. So I would go back to the persona, to the costume that they wanted me to wear. I finally woke up when I was 40, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start taking away the layers of this costume little by little. And as I was doing that, I felt so like I could breathe a little bit more and more each day. Like, don't get me wrong, I still have some layers, but it's really freeing when you're not in costume and when you are your real self. It can get not only heavy to wear all those layers, but also it's really nice to be able to express who you are and not be suffocated by what others think of you. One prime example was, I remember in my past job, we had an event every holiday where we were giving like, back pre-COVID days when the economy was great, we were each given like $100 to go out and buy ourselves Christmas gifts during a holiday party, and we all went shopping together. And you had to buy a gift that you liked, that said something about you. Then you had to tell a story of why you bought that, and then we all came back for lunch and had to share those stories and show our gifts. And that particular day after that, this was the year after I began having that realization of taking my layers off. I had found like these really cool boots. They were like kind of like edgy black, and people would have never thought I would want something like that. And in my group when I was shopping, it was this lady that had more of an edgy taste. And so when I showed my boots and told my story, they no one said anything. Like, they were like in shock. And afterwards, a couple of people came up to me and told me, Andrea, are you really keeping those boots? Andrea, you shouldn't have let Vanessa influence what you buy. And I'm just like, this is really what I wanted. I love them. So it's just an example. Of course, it takes time. It takes courage, but don't let people put you in boxes. And sometimes we don't realize it. We're not aware. We're not aware that we do that. We're so used to living that way because we feel like that's what we need to do to belong and be accepted. But I challenge you to let go and really analyze. Maybe you're like, well, I don't have a costume. I don't have any layers, but do you? What is something that maybe perhaps you go back and think about, saying, I wish I could have the guts to do that, or man, you pulled that off so well, I could never do that. Are you sure? So that's my story to you guys today. Costumes are great on Halloween and all, but don't let costumes blind who you are during your life. Take away those layers and start exposing who you really are. People who will like you and who will accept you are your true friends, and those you need to hang out with. Oh my gosh, I was telling that story and there's people waiting in the waiting room. Hold on. All right. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first storyteller, Miss Annie Leib. Annie, I've just spoken to just a few times, but I feel like I've known her forever. Annie and I connected at first word, I want to say, at first sight, at first word. I don't know. I feel like we have this connection, and we kind of have a soulful connection. We think the same things. I think we have a similar path and passion to help others and to be real. And God, if you don't follow Annie, please do so. I want to ask the speakers in the chat, please put, after you speak, please put in how people follow you, or if you have initiatives yourselves that you do, which I know all of you have things going on, please put that in the chat. But Annie has this amongst other things, this amazing podcast called Living with Annie-tude. And it's so raw and real, and she's so gifted in just being a human and inspiring. And I'm so blessed to have you here, Annie.
Thank you. Andrea, you're such a beautiful human. I'm so honored to be here and just humbled, and thank you for making me go first. I really appreciate that. No, I'm excited to go first because it's so interesting what you brought up today about, first of all, just that you do this is just tremendous because it's so incredibly important, especially today. But I have to warn all of you that I hear pitter patter in the hallway right now. So undoubtedly, I'm going to have somebody bust in here and start to show me like her unicorn on the iPad. And undoubtedly, we're going to hear some screaming or banging against the wall because there's a Fortnite tournament happening in my house, like that just started about 10 minutes ago. So I just want to warn everybody that when I say stop it or whatever, I'm not yelling at you. So to tell my story, just, I'll start with the fact that I was born into a lot of love, but into a hell of a lot of chaos. And when you're a little baby and a little girl, and you're born into a tremendous amount of chaos, you start to think that it's your fault. And when you do that, oftentimes you search for just some balance and some harmony in your life and evenness, and it's really hard to find when it's not there due to fighting or violence or whatever's happening in your world. And I became a really, really good approval seeker and an even better people pleaser. So fast forward to 2014, that was really when things had crumbled for me. And it's interesting, Andrea, that you bring that we're on at Halloween and that you bring up wearing a mask and a costume, because I was so low and it was such a dark time for me. And I've never said this publicly, but I went into a hospital because I was a shell of myself. The only thing that I was wearing was actually, no pun intended to what's going on right now in the world, but I was just wearing the mask, just the mask that covered my face, because that's all that I could have to be someone that I thought I needed to be, and to find that evenness and balance and harmony. The darkness was a really dark time for me. And I describe it like this. I was wearing a cloak that was weighing me down. And at the same time, I was walking through sand underneath water. So I was suffocating and walking through sand. That's the best way. And the other way that I describe the darkest time for me in my life was I was actually seeing in black and white. I couldn't see in color anymore. So I was, at this time when, I was watching a black and white movie that was my life. So fast forward, I finally saw a physician that uncovered that I had been misdiagnosed my entire young adult life with depression and anxiety. And so I was mismedicated, misdiagnosed, the wrong therapy, the wrong everything. So I was acting in ways and behaving in ways and reacting in ways that wasn't really true to myself. So I was actually finally in 2014, at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, diagnosed with bipolar 2, which is way more common than most people realize. And I happen, this is another tangent, but I happen to think that a lot more people have this and suffer from this than we realize, and that are diagnosed, because they too, like me, presented with depression and anxiety and are misdiagnosed and mismedicated. So finally, after 25 years of having seen people and not understanding why I was still such a shell, and I did the dance. I did a great job at, again, wearing the mask and being Annie and being bubbly and being, and so people didn't really understand because you can't see it. You can just feel it. It's invisible. So I've started to build my life back. And fast forward again to not that long ago, actually. A couple of years ago, I decided to go back to school and get my executive MBA because, I had nothing else going on. I was starting a business. I had kids at home under 10 and, was involved in about 50 things and just trying to hold things together and make ends meet and, build my brand. And I learned a lot of things like statistics and data analysis and all those things, right, that you learn in your MBA. And those are important. But what I learned more about myself was who I am as a person. And like you said, Andrea, I started to shed those layers and that costume and that mask that I wore for so long. And I learned about teamwork and entrepreneurship, and I learned about who I really am as a leader. But I learned about authenticity, and that at the core of me, I didn't have to wear the mask. I didn't have to people please. I didn't have to approval seek because I'm good enough. So one day I said something with a play on words in my bubbly, positive self. I said, you're having a bad attitude. And somebody said to me, that should be your hashtag. So I was like, oh, whatever. Well, it turns out that I turned this into a brand, Living with Attitude, because attitude it's more than the tagline, it's more than a play on words. It's a way of life. And it's being my best, most authentic self every day. So it's showing up as me, whether I think, like, for example, I was running this morning and I was thinking about what I was going to say, because I don't do a whole lot of preparation for these things, because I want to bring my truest self. And I feel like if I, I have like a couple notes in front of me, but I feel like if I do too much, I'm going to mess it up. So I just want to be me and show up as me and be vulnerable and show you my heart, because that's who I am. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to be good enough. My story, I had all this doubt that came in this morning. My story isn't going to be good enough. Everybody is more interesting. And then I thought, it's not about you, Annie. It's not about my story being interesting or making the most impact or, being better than someone else's story. It's not about that at all. It's about impacting one person. It's about showing my true self and saying, this has been a hard life and I'm here. And I'm here to show you that there is light on the other side when you get the right help and you have the right support. So that's what my podcast is about. And that's what my brand is about. Living with Anitude is about showing your true, most authentic self and being you, because everyone has a voice. I have a voice today. I'm sharing my story with you. And I can't wait to hear everyone else's stories. And it's not about competing stories. It's about showing up as us. So in my life and in my daily job and what I do is I help people to uncover their truest, most authentic selves. And that in and of itself heals me. So I give back every day with my clients, with my friends, with my family. And in doing that, I show my truest self and I show that other people can show their truest selves. So thank you for having me. I just want to let you know that there's probably not a whole lot that you can go through that I can't relate to your feelings. As an empath, I feel you. I already feel all the energy in this room. And I just wanted to say, I appreciate you hearing me and listening to my story and dealing with me sort of not having an order of things, just running with it. And I just appreciate all the acceptance and love and support that I have in my life right now. And many of those people are you sitting right here. So thank you.
Big hearts to Annie. Thank you, Annie. I love it every time. I could hear you for hours. You are always very real, and that's something I so admire about you. If it makes you feel better, I didn't prep what I was going to say either. I have literally in my notes Halloween / dress up. That's all I have. I'm like, okay, I'll run with it. But thank you for sharing your story. So next, I have Dawn. I have known Dawn for a very long time. We went to college together. And Dawn has been, oh my gosh, so accomplished in her life. I really look up to everything that she's been doing. She's recently published a book. She keeps writing and writing. And I always was really drawn to her values and her courage and her sense of really standing up for what's right. I know she's done a lot of efforts and involved in many groups in doing that. So I really so appreciate you being here, Dawn, and always being such a huge supporter.
Thank you, Andrea. My tears are already starting just from hearing those words. And I thank you for that. And thank you for bringing the group together. I did put the timer on just because I know once I start talking, sometimes I was an introvert most of my life who learned how to become an extrovert. But once I tip that balance and I start talking, people are shocked that I'm really an introvert. They're like, oh my God. So I've got to put the timer on to keep me in check. I'm really glad to be here. And I'm glad to be here because I have found a lot of value in sharing my story. And for so long, I did not share my story. And I don't know if it's because I was embarrassed or hiding or, maybe all of the above, but I didn't know how to give my story words and I was afraid to be judged. But now the more I share it openly, it helps me and I hope the words will help someone else too. But there's definitely, and I think there's a value in sharing your story with people you don't know, because sometimes people you do know and who know your story give you, I don't know, maybe more grace or more latitude. It's nice to have like fresh ears and eyes hear your story, if that makes any sense. But I grew up in a home with a mother with borderline personality disorder, and my father is an alcoholic, and he hasn't drank in about 30 years, but growing up, he was a very heavy drinker and would become violent. Um, what is amazing now is that the alcoholism in my life when I was growing up really doesn't impact me as much anymore. It was growing up with a mother with mental illness. And I didn't realize she had borderline personality disorder until maybe 12 years ago because I always just dealt with it. And someone who has borderline personality disorder, their emotions change very rapidly. Um, they go from loving you intensely to hating you. It can happen in a blink of just a moment. But growing up, I just dealt with it. I didn't do a lot to make her angry because I just thought she had a bad temper. And so I always did everything I was supposed to do. I took care of her a lot because my dad was out drinking. And so I spent most of my childhood just taking care of my mother, knowing she was emotional, thinking it was just because of my dad's drinking. Um, it was when I went to college that the break started to happen. My freshman year in college, I did not live in the dorm. It was St. Thomas, and we were, all in Houston. And so I would drive to St. Thomas and then come back home. And that's when the break started to happen because I started growing up. And I remember getting in trouble for getting home at 6 p.m. So I would have dinner and then come home. And when I say get in trouble, I mean filleted, not just, I mean, just really intense anger. And then I did move into the dorm sophomore year. I look back, I don't know how that happened, but then the rage turned into, you don't call me every day. You don't love me. And over time, it got worse and worse. And I would still do whatever I could to calm her down. Um, other just examples. I I was a teacher, and then I went to Harvard for my graduate degree, and I worked so hard to get to my GRE good scores. I mean, I just worked so hard. And when I got accepted, she was angry because I was leaving. And so I left Houston, and it was just the turbulence in the relationship just continued. Um, my husband got me through a lot of that, and I met him in college. Um, but for most of my life, I've just always been very quiet, very introverted, not wanting to upset anyone, because if you upset someone, the rage will come through. Things really started to change whenever I had my daughter. My oldest daughter is 12, and she was just disagreeing with the way I was parenting, and it would be like small things. Um, I guess I should say too, and I should have said this, she has been on prescription drugs since the 70s for her mood. And I say the 70s because my dad did tell me later that she, was taking antidepressants when they were dating. And by this time, she might be taking 3 Xanax a day. And so I know her brain is just not, and when you've been doing this since 1970, I mean, and that's part of the borderline personality disorder, just addiction issues too. I know that it was getting worse. She lost her job. She would just rage at me. It got to the point where she was calling CPS because she said I was a bad mother. And she called an elderly abuse hotline saying I abuse her. And so her levers to control me were just escalating at such a rate. And then I was pregnant with my second child, and that's when it started to be more psychotic. I say that because I tried to go to therapists with her, and it never would work because she truly doesn't think there's anything wrong. She thinks her behavior is normal. She tells me I deserve these things. And so one of the therapists said, she has psychotic episodes in the private visits that she had with him, and then like I would see him. And when I was pregnant with my second child, she said that she had been talking to my deceased grandfather, and that he has conveyed to her that I don't know how to love, and her mission is to teach me how to love because there's going to be something wrong with my child. And it just it's more stories like that. And to the point where I had to draw the boundary that I can't have a relationship, because it is just excessive. And when people, I mean, a lot of people don't know, but it's just, I think people look at me, I know they look at me and they see someone very calm. I'm very introverted. And so people think, she's stuck up or she's a snob or she's this, or I work very hard to create the life that I want, because my life growing up was just so difficult, with the alcoholism and just a very financially difficult life. And so I've worked very hard to create something. And so I think sometimes people just now see the effect. They just see and they think it's fake. And I'm like, no, really, my desire to leave a good imprint on the world and to create something is so authentic, because I grew up seeing the exact opposite. And so I tried to think, there's just a lot of stuff. Like, what are the big things I know from this, and what are the smaller things I know? And throughout all of the abuse that I continue to suffer, because she finds ways to contact me. She finds ways to talk to the neighbors about knocking on my neighbor's doors saying there's something going on in that house. I had to call the police because she was screaming and pounding on my door. What I know is that I'm powerful. We all are so powerful. And that I'm not responsible for someone's darkest moments. Because growing up, I was made to feel like I was responsible. If I didn't call enough, if I didn't smile enough, there was always something wrong with me, and that causes her, even now to this day, that I'm to blame. And I know that's not true. But I know that I'm powerful. I've used it to really channel spirituality for me. I grew up Catholic. I've spent many years reading Buddhist literature, and now I'm really into Hindu literature. I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I am just in love with that piece. I'm studying it now, and just that we're all powerful, and I want to use my power to work on my soul. And for me, I'm still working on the healthy sense of detachment, and they actually talk about that in the Bhagavad Gita, and that's why I'm thinking maybe it was meant to read it this time. I still struggle with an overwhelming desire to make sure everybody's happy, and to make sure that I'm not offensive, or am I being kind enough? I'm struggling with, I'm getting better, but if there are relationships in my life that aren't working, how do I let them go? Because to me, I was always taught, you make it work no matter what, even if you're being abused. And so I'm learning how to let relationships go with love and detachment. And, people talk, I guess 3 final points. People talk a lot about boundaries. And now I think that buzzword kind of has a negative connotation at times. And boundaries are really healthy if you exercise the love and detachment and compassion. And that is such a tricky balance, right? Because you still have to send love, but you have to say, I'm not going to let myself, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. I'm worth something. And it's hard when it's your mom, and everyone talks about mothers and how loving, and that's another thing. It's just like, oh gosh, this expectation. So, and I guess the other thing that I take away with me is having compassion for myself, the boundaries, still having love and detachment, and it's okay to walk away, even if it's your mom. And I pray that people are kind to her. And I mean that because if there are people like, my friend yesterday said she was going by a Trump rally and she shot the finger at them. And she was so proud that she did this. And while a part of me was like, I understand, don't do that. That's not going to help anything. And I was also worried she'd get shot. But she was just so angry at this rally. And I told her, and we kind of laughed, but I take away just to be kind if you can help it. To even people you don't agree with. If someone is waving this flag, just keep on writing, because try not to add any more negativity in the ether, even though it's so easy to do now. and just be kind and be kind to a stranger if you can, because my mom really blames me for her suffering because I've left. And it started when I went to college. And I hope other people are being kind to her, if that makes sense. I hope she gets it if it's from someone at the grocery store, or if she's expressing a view that a stranger doesn't flip her off, because sometimes that can be someone's tipping point. Just like we say, a smile can be powerful. So I guess that's kind of a final thought, that just to be kind when you can. And I pray that people are, I pray that people are being kind to her. So, yeah, that's the behind my, what is it when when you pull back the curtain and you just see the little man? That's my curtain. So, but thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.
You are such an inspiration, and your words, I hope you take the time to read all the comments in the chat, because you've touched so many people, and so many people are saying that they can relate. And because of you having the courage to share your story, which I had no idea, and I've known you for a long time, you made a lot of us, including me, I can relate to so much stuff that you said, including having to call every day when I was in college and all that stuff. You gave us the strength to know that we're not alone, and we own it, and we move forward. And you had the courage to move forward and decide it is your mother, and you moved forward with it, and you cut that toxic relationship off. I can so relate with you. So thank you so much for sharing. And I admire you, if possible, even more now. So thank you, Dawn, for being here. Next we have Chris. Now, Chris, I believe Chris is a true extrovert, unless he's also an introvert that conditioned himself to be an extrovert, which is amazing. But Chris is just so full of positive energy. I mean, we met in the Humans First group in a breakout room, and gosh, ever since that one time, he's just radiates positivity. He gives others the strength to be themselves, and he's so pro team human that he's starting these initiatives to do to rise others by being yourself, and for humanity, he's really a gift. And I'll let Chris share his actions and his initiatives, and hope you can join him in the chat. But he's always such an inspiration when I speak with him, and I'm so lucky to have him speak today. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Well, thank you for that great introduction, Andrea, and I'm so glad I'm here with all these great people, Annie, Dawn, and everyone else here. Your stories not only truly relate to each other, but they relate to me, because I've had that happen to me in many ways, more than you can probably even imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, my story is going to be somewhat brief, because it's going to be really extensive if I go over the 10 minutes and that kind of thing. So I just want to share with you right now in the chat. This is my story, and it's just a brief overview of where I was born back in 1971 to where we currently are today. But there's going to be some things I'm going to share with you today that's not in that story. And one of which really relates to me, not only from Annie's story she just told, but also with Dawn. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from a background of going through school after school after school after school and never finding the right place. And I was actually diagnosed with 2 learning disabilities. One was a slow learning disability, which I had to learn things from A, B, C, D, and all that kind of stuff. And the next was I would literally shut down when I was ganged upon, and I emotionally would just shut myself off to the world and everything. But ladies and gentlemen, I've learned to overcome them. I've looked at them as abilities, and nothing's going to hold me back, even those quote unquote disabilities. In my time when I was younger, my parents were just like, in some way, shape, or form, like Dawn's. I was mentally abused, physically abused. Um, it was always my fault for them having the darkest days in their lives and that kind of thing. My mother committed suicide at the age of 33. I was probably 10 years old. And to honor her, what I have did is I put my Boy Scout uniform on, because that was a big thing that I was in at that time. And when I was at the funeral, I said to myself, I'm just so in shock that my mother is gone. So when I went to go live with my new stepmother, and of course my stepfather at the time was my father at the time, what ended up happening is, when I was sleeping one night in the bedroom, her picture came to fruition to me to such an extent that it was the picture of Jesus. But then the next thing you know, it literally just melted away to Jesus. And I saw my mother just literally in that picture, just in so much of a bloody state. And it was just so gruesome. And like I said, I just couldn't get over that, because like I said, the day that she committed suicide, she literally berated me in such an extent, because not many people know this too as well. On that very day that she committed suicide, my father at the time was divorced, dropped me off, and my mother was laying on her bed. She was stoned to a T. She was so high. I mean, it's like, she didn't know who she was, probably. But what ended up happening is, she knew for a while that my father stepped into that house. Not only was she going to shoot me, she was going to shoot him, because she had a 32 caliber gun, and she was going to kill him dead on sight. And that day resonates with me and will haunt me forever. Because the night that she left me by myself when she was going to commit suicide, she threw a glass at me, started yelling and everything like that. So I shut the door and I just sheltered myself in place. And I had to go through a lot of that. I even had family members today still think that I would not be a part of something bigger than myself, and compare me to my natural mother. And I said to myself years ago, I can't do that. And that is why I have now chosen the path to bring humanity together, and to truly bring humanity into business and beyond. Because the one thing that interconnects us all, ladies and gentlemen, is our humanity. And if we are willing to take that stand for humanity, and willing to stand up for others who may not only not speak for themselves, but more importantly, not be able to take that stand for themselves, then we need to go out there and be those people who are willing to take that stand, to give people hope, positivity, the power of possibility, and the power of opportunity. And I was committed to that. And to give you the kind of 3 epiphany moments in how that came about, it's about 15 years ago. I was sitting on my couch and I said to myself, I need to be working with people, not for people. Then flash forward to when 2017 comes around, and I was a corporate recruiter for a solar company here in Lakeland, Florida. I was asking applicants and candidates things like, do you want to be a part of something bigger than of yourself? Do you want to leave a living and lasting impact on yourself and others every day in every way? Do you want to truly say, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's not even about us, it's what we truly leave behind for future generations, to leave a living and lasting impact on others? And that's the second epiphany moment for me. Then the third one is just recently, I had a friend of mine named Joe who just told me how bad his day was. And he's like, you know what? I just can't do it no more, Chris. I got to I got to walk away. And I was like, I know that. So now I just know what my calling is, what my purpose is, what my mission is. And I'm so thankful and honored to have great people like Andrea and Monique and Sandy Chernoff and Michelle Madden and so many others, Quinn, uh, people that I met in the Humans First community, because like I said, the one thing unites us all is our very humanity. And I truly believe that we unite together as one and be of one voice, one vision, one mission driven, not only community, but also those people who will take that stand for humanity. There's nothing that we cannot do for each other. Like I said, I had a rough childhood, but I didn't let that stop me. I was even institutionalized twice, but I'm not let that stop me because I just knew I had a higher calling and a higher purpose. It's going to take me a long time to get there, but you know what? Everything that has happened to me to this very time in my life has led me to who I was becoming right here, right now, and what I was meant to do. Because I truly know it's not about me. It's not. Because if it was, I can be going down that dark path that will forever dominate my destiny. Because I have learned to let go what I fear to lose. And I know it's my time to be of that. And not only am I doing this for everyone who is on this very call or people that I've contacted with personally, I'm doing this for my wife that's sitting in the other room that's saying, I'm not being valued. I don't have a voice. No one is listening to me. And I'm doing that for her. But then after I can quit my traditional job, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go crisscross this globe, crisscross this country and say, hey, the people that you need to be involved with right now is the people who are wanting to take that stand for humanity and you be united together. Because like that's what I'm saying. We need to do that. I even saw the writing on the wall before even this COVID-19 crisis came in. So I'm just here to help and serve each and every single one of you. I would love to have great and engaging conversations with you, Dawn, Annie, and everyone else on this call, because we need to be united. And I think if we can do that now together, not only do we unleash the power of positivity and the power of opportunity, but we can literally not only change the world, but we can change each other's lives through the smallest things that we do that can create the biggest impacts. And once we create that, not only for ourselves, but for others, that's the greatest gift that we can give. And I truly believe in that. So my gift is to you is to extend that invitation and let's have that great engaging conversation to have that conversation for humanity that we need to have more now than ever before in human history.
Oh my goodness. I'm starting to not want to have to talk after everyone talks because this is so hard. Chris, I had no idea. I'm processing everything, how even more incredible human being you are. And you're so brave. I mean, again, also look at the chats and the comments. I mean, you've really opened up, at least for me. I feel like I can release another layer because of what you just shared with my costume, layer of my costume, giving me the bravery to do so, because we all have those skeletons, no pun intended, because it's Halloween, but gosh, what you have gone through, I can't even imagine. And now look at you, you're like a champion for humanity, selflessly, and wanting to do things better. I mean, I'm certainly on that train with you. I hope all of you get to know Chris as well, because he's powerful and he's real and he's genuine. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, everyone, for listening to me today. Thank you for the opportunity.
So next we have Jenny. Jenny every time I see Jenny or I hear Jenny speak, she reminds me, I mean, I say this wholeheartedly because this is what you remind me of, is an angel. You just have this aura about you, but also you do such a great job pairing your mind with your heart in all that you say and do. And I know you have a story, and I know you mentioned that you wanted to share it with us. I don't know your full story either, but I am beyond honored and humbled that you and each of you feel safe and feel like you want to do this today. So I love that you're here, Jenny. Thank you for all your continued support, and I can't wait to hear what you're about to say.
Thank you, Andrea. You really are one of the people who are helping me reclaim my voice, because what's happening right now, that people are pausing and giving space and looking to me and ready to listen to what I have to say. I am not used to being heard in that way, and not previous to a year ago. And I'm calling from Sweden, so my English is what it is, and I'm going with it. But I can say that I did not only wear the mask, I masked my entire home. My story begins with a love story, or so I thought. I met my ex-husband about 12 years ago, and it was very passionate. He was very good with words. And me coming from a family where your word is your bond, my father used to say that our actions draw a line over or under our words. I was naive, and I really believed in the words and did not hold him responsible. And pretty early on, I started noticing that he had some issues with anger. I coped by turning to myself, and what Dawn was sharing really resonated with me, that I started telling myself that for this ideal of a relationship, of a home, of a family to be, or to come into being for us, I just have to adapt a little more. If I only keep him happy, if I only change myself in this area, if I only work harder, if I only fix this, if I only, then we're gonna be okay. And I can really see that from early on. I started pushing my boundaries and accepting more and more ill treatment. And I thought that I was being responsible. I thought that I was being responsible for us, but I was not being responsible for my own well-being. And I gave birth to 3 beautiful children. The twins are 6 years old now, and their big sister is 7. Our twins were born in week 26, so that's really, really early, with Bella being only 1 year and 3 months. So we spent time at the hospital for them to grow and get better and stronger. And it was just extremely, extremely intense. And I was by myself in all of this. And it sounds so black and white, like he drove the, it's like I keep looking like, is he gonna log on when I'm sharing this? Like it sounds really black and white, because he did drive the car, yes. But then he sat by his computer and gamed for like days and months. He was just completely absent. And that was his choices. And I wasn't ready to accept the choices that he was making and take responsibility for me to make my own decisions, you know, accordingly. So I stayed for years until I was burned out. And I remember walking through the forest, you know, having gone through years of just trying to keep the peace, not being punished, just create that home that I really wanted to create for our children and for us. I was walking through the woods and I was just praying because I was being manipulated and I felt so weak. How, you know, how there's just no way out. That there's no way that I can, he's going to talk me out of every suggestion or path that I see that we could move forward in a healthier way. And I was praying for God to just give me one thing that he could not take from me. And I received that I have value. I received that I have worth, a worth that is absolute, that is not, you know, depending on another person's opinion or way of seeing things. So I walked back to the house and I also received that it is going to be difficult, but you are not going to be alone. And I walked into the house, our home, and my mindset has shifted from, you know, he has to, I have to, into I'm going to be okay. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't control how he is going to respond. I can't control other people, but I am going to be okay. So I walked in and I started telling my story for the first time in years. I told him that I was not okay, that this was not working for me, and I fell to the ground telling so. But I kept on telling it, even when he started with his mind tricks. And I understand today that he likely has a narcissistic personality disorder that I've been facing in this. So I kept telling my story and it was hard, but staying truthful to my own voice, I found a strength in me that I had forgotten about. And today, I live a completely different life. And a lot of things are still outside of my control, but I am living a life that I am choosing. And learning to let go of other people's decisions and actions and behavior and being just present with myself, enjoying my day is opening up just this world of opportunities for me. And I'm really, I love my life today. We live in a small town. I have a wonderful job and the kids are okay. And I'm good. I am doing okay. So I think that's something that I really wanted to reach through with, is that we can never control other people. We can only control our own actions and decisions, and we are not to identify with what was done to us. I identify with getting up. I identify with, you know, my fighting spirit, my decisions, my trying again, my actions. And yeah, I'm doing okay. Please say something. I'm not used to this quiet, just people listening and not interacting.
There's an explosion of hearts, Jenny. Thank you so much for sharing. And I want to reiterate that this is a safe space. No one can just pop in here unless I let them in. So you know, moving forward, if there's certain people that prevent you to tell your story and you're a speaker, just let me know and we'll make sure that it continues to be a safe space.
And that really is the work that has to be done to separate his story from my story, because his story is going on. He keeps telling it to people, and I know I know my story, and that is enough. I am enough.
You are enough. I truly, truly feel now more than ever that all of us here in this room were meant to hear all of these words today. Like, I don't know what's in each of your minds right now, but I have a sense that one of these things that have been shared with you today is impacting you. So if you get something out of it like that, like I've so many things you said just now, Jenny, staying true to your voice, found a strength in yourself. You can't control our own action. We can control only our own actions and decisions. I mean, yes. So thank you, Jenny. And I'm so glad. I mean, your true story of courage, perseverance, and fighting for what is right. Thriving. You're thriving. What people have told me before, don't describe yourself as a fighter, but as a thriver. Mm-hmm. And I think you're a thriver. Absolutely. Thank you, Jenny. We have my friend Fernanda, goes by Fern. She is also one of those people that from the very start I have been impressed with, because she is herself no matter what. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be like that eventually, like when I grow up. I mean, we've met, gosh, we were in our 20s. One of our first jobs, we were teaching a crazy group of private school sixth graders some Spanish. We shared a classroom, and the rest is history. But yeah, she's been an inspiration. We couldn't be more different in so many ways, but we couldn't be more the same in so many ways, in that we truly believe in empowering others, fighting for what is right, and going after our dreams. So thanks so much for being here, Fern.
Thank you for having me. This is very cool. I think it's awesome that you're doing this, and listening to all of you guys has been so incredible. And some pieces of what, there's always those words that people speak that just resonate with you, and so I had thought about like what to say, because I don't usually write about myself. I'm a writer, but I don't usually write about real stuff. I make up worlds, right? Science fiction and fantasy worlds where there's dragons and there's magic and there's all this kind of cool stuff. And I hide in fiction, because that's a really nice safe place in which to dwell. I've been hiding in fiction since I was young, because I was always a little chubby girl. So I was bullied all the time, and so books and writing were always my hiding place. And I always tried to get people's approval and just be kind, just be nice. Dawn's word, like, am I being kind enough? No, am I not being offensive, right? Can I change myself to make people be more okay? And that was like early on how I saw myself, like I have to somehow fit in, but I never really did, I never really did. And so I just started being me. And then, you have all these people that just kind of push you away because you're not quite what they thought you were, you know. But as I was thinking about what to say, I realized that there was a really funny, very kind of scary in the moment situation that happened recently. So, we're in an atmosphere where there's a lot of, if you will, some rising up of very misogynistic sort of tendencies to try to put women in a certain place, in a certain box. And so I was driving along in Houston traffic. And if y'all don't know Houston traffic, it's wonderful. So it was, and we came to a construction. So now, come on, people, it's a pandemic, right? There shouldn't be that many people out there driving anyways. But so we had, stopped bumper to bumper, trying to get 3 lanes to become one. And, all those wonderful, bright people that cut towards the front and they don't, take turns. And it was just, that wonderful moment. And I was sitting there in my little Subaru waiting for my turn to cross. And all of a sudden, this guy bumps into the back of my car. It was not huge, it was not like a big crash or anything, but I mean, there's some damage, not big deal. So I get down, right? Because that's what you do when you have a car accident. Somebody crashes into you. You have to get down, you have to exchange information, take a look at what happened. So I get down and I'm masked, right? I got my mask because we're in a pandemic, right? So I got my mask, I got my gloves, those kitchen gloves with which you clean the house, right? So I got my little purple gloves and I've got I'm ready to, discuss the situation with this gentleman who smashed into the back of my car with his truck. And so he gets down too. Now he's like massive, right? He's like this huge, like dude, white dude, very, upset. I could tell he was upset because he was like red, right? He was like all red. And I'm like, why is he upset? He's the one who smashed into me. But anyway, so I get over there towards him and I go, hey, what happened? And he goes, well, you just didn't move up far enough. Don't you see you have all that space? I mean, you could have just kept on moving up. Cupcake. Don't you know how to drive, cupcake? And I was like, what the heck? And in that instant, I thought, no, I'm done tolerating that, So I turned to him and I go, well, this is construction zone. And if you hadn't been looking down at your phone, you would have been able to pay enough attention to know that I was stopping and you wouldn't have hit me, buttercup. I have never seen a man more flabbergasted in my life. I mean, he turned really, really red and his eyes were blinking like so fast. I didn't know people could blink that fast. And he sputtered, literally. You know how when you read the words, the person sputtered and you're like wondering what that really means? I saw it live. He sputtered and he's like, what you call me? And I was like, well, I thought we were getting sweet on each other since you were calling me cupcake. You could be my buttercup. And so he goes, well, I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't know how to drive. And I was like, I'm not the one who smashed into the back of a car that's basically stationary. And so he just started like sputtering again. And I'm like, I think you should just go get your insurance and let's get this over with so we can get it done. So he goes off to his car to get his insurance, his truck, and I am taking pictures. Okay, I took like a ton of pictures of the whole thing. We're like in traffic, cars, bumper to bumper cars. So I'm like, he's not gonna turn around and try to say it was my fault. Plus he hit me from the back and in Texas, that's automatically your fault. So I started taking these pictures and he comes back, he's like, you don't have permission to be taking pictures, cupcake. And I was like, oh, buttercup, I need to document. You should take some pictures too. And he just was like, he could not believe I'd said it a second time. He really couldn't. I think he was just like amazed that anybody ever bucked up to him. So, we exchanged the information and, took a picture of my bumper and blah, blah. So I gave him back his card, got back in my car. And as I'm like trying to inch my way forward and hoping, that this guy doesn't decide to follow me home or something, I thought, I cannot believe I just did that. I really can't. I mean, it was kind of this incredible feeling of power, right? That, he didn't get to call me cupcake. I mean, who calls a random person they meet cupcake? I mean, it was really empowering, but at the same time, it was really scary. I was like, this dude could have gotten violent, for all I knew. But it was one of the most fascinating moments of my life recently, just being able to say, no, You don't get to like talk down to me, especially because you're the one who freaking hit my car. What's wrong with you? And, I realized looking back at that and over my life that I've been that way. I get upset. I get upset if people are, you know, pushing people down or, making you feel like with condescension. And I've always been the kind to just talk back, and that has been good in many, many ways, but it's also been scary in some, you know. And then of course, when I posted it um, on Facebook, I just kind of posted a little quick thing, and Alicia, she suggested I should have called him Sweet Cheeks, which I'm now holding for the next idiot who tries to call me Cupcake. And so, but yes, I mean, it's one of those things where life is always trying to people. Somebody mentioned about being put in a box. People try to put you in a box, that somehow women are the poor drivers. Well, I'm not the one who didn't pay attention, in that instance, or, other boxes that people put you in. And one of the boxes that I have struggled a lot with is with a male relationships, because I'm just not good wife material, not in the traditional sense, I'm just too weird. And so, and I'm just too independent to be wifey material. And so that has been a struggle with my, I recently divorced because, the expectations, I'm not able to necessarily meet all the expectations, but I think it's important that as we move forward, especially not just as for the ladies, but for the gentlemen, that that we begin to give people the space and the support to be who they are. I mean, Andrea was talking about getting rid of those layers. It's a scary thing when you start getting rid of layers. And we need a community that supports us. And I think like what Chris is doing, a community that supports you and says, yes, okay, you just got rid of this layer. You just did this awesome, empowering thing. Good, and encourages us instead of trying to put you back in a box. We use too many labels in our society, and we need to just get rid of that. We just need to be humans for a change. We just all need to be humans, each unique, each forging our path, each trying to find who we are, and where we're going, and giving each other that space and that support and that encouragement. And so I think that what you're doing, Andrea, here is really amazing and awesome. And I think we need to keep that going, beyond the awesome 2020 year from the apocalypse. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed in this apocalypse. I thought there would be zombies, personally. I was kind of looking forward to zombies, but apparently no. We got something entirely different, but that's okay. We will survive this apocalypse and the next one. I'm looking forward to 2021. Who knows what will come our way, but we will survive it. We survive it here where we are, in this community, in this space that allows us to be us and encourages us to be us, So, I mean, I know, God, there's so many stories, but that one was the one I wanted to share because it was hilarious and it felt so good. It was really scary in that instant, but then I thought, there's so many cars around here. If he starts speeding up on me, surely somebody will will kind of come out of their car and go, wait a minute, why are you beating on that woman? But but I was like, no, Buttercup, you ain't doing this. And it was just so good. It felt so awesome. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And that's it. Thank you, Andrea, for letting me hang out and share my cupcake Buttercup.
Sure thing, sweetie pie. You always make me smile, Fern, but you have, despite, your sense of humor, you have this strength behind you that is always evident. So thank you for being you and sharing and always being just a big supporter in everything that I do. You also got some great comments, Fern. You know, you were born to stand out. It's keep being you, Fern. So that's awesome. Thank you for being here, Fern. Last but not least, I am so excited to have Oleg here on this rally. I've been wanting Oleg to be on here for a while, and I finally reached out, and he immediately said yes. And Oleg never ceases to support me. I've admired Oleg since the very first time. I also met him through Humans First, and he introduced me to his world, which he touches so many people, and he has such an incredible story as well of courage, of perseverance, of thriving, and he does a fabulous job creating platforms for others to do the same. Oleg, I think your words are beyond your years. You amaze me every time with your wisdom, and I am so grateful to have you as a speaker today. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you. Thank you for creating this space and this opportunity for all of us. When you first asked me to share my story, the first thing that came to mind is which part of it, right? Because there were moments throughout my life where I had lived within that story, and I realized that the story is so rich. There's not always the story about the childhood. There's not only the story about survival and abuse. There's also the story that I get to experience right now. There's a story that I'm yet to live. So when I thought about that concept, and the topic that came to mind was words matter. And the way that I would like to start this off is with the first sentence that really made a big difference in my life. And before I say another word, I would actually like to ask for a moment of accountability and responsibility from all of you. And that is, as I share my story, I will do my best to not use the following: you have to, or you need to, or you should. And the reason why I say that is because I haven't lived a single step in your shoes. I haven't walked a single step in your journey. Therefore, I don't believe I have the power and authority to use such phrases. The first phrase that changed my life completely: you are so much more than your circumstances. When I thought about my life, and having been born in Russia in a small town called Chubarkul in the direction of Kazakhstan, I was born to a very difficult set of circumstances. I was born to a household where my mother was an alcoholic, my father was in prison, and my sister, who was 18 years older, ended up becoming my legal guardian. So some of you could imagine the different challenges that such circumstances brought, not only for myself, but also for my sister, who may or may not have wanted to have a kid at that particular age. Through the trials and tribulations of life, and having had a set of circumstances that really redefined the way that I choose to live that past. First one being when I was 9 years old, I chose to give up my parents' rights in order to create a better future, a better possibility for myself. Second one came when I was 12. I was adopted by a family from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I came to the States. I knew no words of English. The only things that I did know about the United States was that it was a land of opportunity and the name Michael Jordan, which I believe are probably synonymous when you really think about the two. But when I thought about that journey and everything that I've been able to develop and define as far as perspectives come, I've realized that I'm so much more than the circumstances I was born into. And the story and the analogy that I would like to bring to your attention is a deck of cards. When I started to think about my own life as a deck of cards, and finally understood that the cards that I was dealt with when I was born do not have to be the same cards that I hold today. The beauty of life, from my perspective, is that deck is always available to me. I can always go back to it. I can always reshuffle that deck, and I can always pick a new set of cards. I don't have to hold that same hand that I've held for however many years. The biggest question that I've learned along this journey is this: the question of why me? I believe that's a question many of us face throughout our lives. Why was I the one that was meant to go through all the challenges in life? Why was I the one that was meant to experience all the loss and adversity in life? For many years, I asked myself that question, and I was in desperate pursuit of an answer to that question. What I realized over time was that the answer was always within. It was always there, every step of the way. If not you, then who else? Or why not you? So I always encourage you to think about this as you think about your own journey and the different things that you've been through or are actively going through. Why not you? In all seriousness, why not you? What is the perspective that you can develop from the circumstances that you might be experiencing right now? What's the wisdom? What's the knowledge? What's the insight that you can bring to yourself as well as those that are surrounding you? The thing that this process of living out my story has ultimately taught me, in addition to the two that I previously shared with you, is everything in life is temporary. Nothing is permanent. For those of you that were able to join a conversation that we had prior to this, Courageous Conversations, there's a topic that I shared with all of you, and that is on Wednesday at 12:15 a.m. One of the closest people that I've had in my life, my uncle, passed away from bone cancer. 3 weeks ago, I remember having a conversation with him, 1.5 hours, 2 hours, talking about life. 1 week later, that conversation became 30 minutes. A week after that, it was 5 minutes. And then the week after that, there was none. What I realized over time is that words do matter. And I believe that goes beyond anyone who's a speaker, who has an opportunity to share, to influence, to impact. Because at the end of the day, yes, I might be getting paid when I get on stage, but you also influence me in ways that I don't even know of. Every single one of us. Every time we have a conversation, that's an opportunity to influence someone else's life. And the beauty of that journey is that everyone is fighting a battle that you don't know anything about. I find it fascinating how I can stand in the same exact line to get coffee at a Starbucks and going through some of the toughest moments in my life. And yet life keeps going. It doesn't stop for anyone. It doesn't stop for anything. It just keeps on going. And that's one of the beauties of having to experience and share this space with all of you, is understanding that we're all here for a reason. Every single person not only has value, but has a sense of purpose. Whether or not I know that purpose, that's not really the point. Because I don't know when that purpose is going to reveal itself. Whatever the connection, whatever it may be. One final thought that I want to share with you around this concept of words matter is this. I've heard this phrase many times, and that is, my story is not about me, or certain things in life are not about me. Here's my opinion of it. It is about us, because we are all we have right now. Nothing about tomorrow is guaranteed. Nothing about the future is promised. All of that is an aspiration. So the moment that we're sharing right now, it is about us. It is about the journey. It is about our perspectives. It is about our presence. It is about how you choose to show up. Whether you choose to share, whether you choose to listen, whether you choose to turn on your camera or not, you're still contributing. You're still being here. Your presence and energy is felt. And that's the thing that I wanted to conclude this with, is that for many years, especially when I stepped into this journey and I started to understand the power of my own individual story, that I didn't take that as seriously. I didn't think it was about me. So what that I started a space for other people to share their lives. But at the end of the day, it is about us because we're all we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oleg. Your words always inspire. And you're definitely right. Why not you? What a great question. I think I'm just going to ask myself that daily when I have those doubts, when I feel like I have the urge to put on that costume back on. You're absolutely right. Sometimes we question. In fact, sometimes we question. I know I've questioned why I do these rallies or why I have the passion to do certain things and help others. And sometimes it's just about changing perspective. It's not, maybe you don't need to understand why. Maybe it's not meant for you to understand why, but maybe it's because others need you to do that and they're depending on you to do that. So it's, yeah, if you have the urge to do things, if you have a purpose, then you need to go for it. Words do matter. Thank you. And I'm so sorry to hear about your uncle. Sounds
It's
like
part of the journey. It's part of the cycle. And I think it's the most difficult thing to accept. That's what I've learned, is the question of, why do I choose to hold on if it's inevitable? It's a matter of time. I think holding on gives that comfort, the peace, the understanding. Also knowing that I wish I had one more day, one more minute. And maybe there is a time and maybe there is a place for it all. Who knows what's beyond that? But I think that's one of the more difficult things, in my opinion and my perspective, to accept, is understanding that you just never know. You never know when you're going to see the person for the last time. You never know when you're going to hear their voice. And that's why I think intention becomes a really critical thing. Understanding that every single time you show up for yourself, and simultaneously you will show up for others. That's what I've learned. Far too often I went the other way around. I try to show up for others before showing up for myself. It's not a thing. Business is the same exact way. Instead of choosing to focus on a client, be the client. Solve the problem for yourself. And then you will meet other people who will relate. Because at the end of the day, as different as we are, we're also pretty damn similar. I mean, let's face it. All those themes and the topics that this event brings, love, sadness, joy, we all share them. We just experience them in different events, different circumstances at a different time. And that's, I think, the beauty of just being a human, is that no matter how different one tries to be, we're still connected. We're still one.
Thank you, Oleg. I'm floored by all the stories today and by all the courage and vulnerability and just the leadership and strength that you guys all portrayed. I'm in awe of each and every one of you. This time, I want to open it up to anyone that has any questions for any of our storytellers, or if you just simply want to have a comment for them, words of encouragement, or that you could relate. If you'd like to share that, I give you the floor to do so. Does anyone want to say anything?
Yes. This was so empowering. You know, I live in my head a lot. And when I come to these conversations, it just gets me out of my head and into my heart. Because I can empathize. I see myself in all of you. And I needed this. It really empowers me. I love what Oleg said at the end there. solve the problem for yourself. Wow. Yes. I just, and just everybody's vulnerability just inspires me to be more of who I am. And to your point, Andrea, to shed the mask. And so thank you to everyone who showed up today to empower me. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Jennifer. Love the costume, by the way. Anyone else want to say anything to our speakers, storytellers? You don't have to. Your hearts alone and your comments say it all.
I will comment. Oh.
Leo?
Oh no, go ahead.
I loved every last speaker here, you guys. I relate to all of you, and I believe Oleg is absolutely correct. We all connect in so many ways than we realize. And I want to continue to share my story as well. You guys have inspired me a lot, and I think you guys are awesome leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleo. I just need to call out Alicia. Alicia is just so amazing. She spent the night in the hospital and yet she still called in. Prayers for healing, Alicia. Love you.
Well, I should get to go home today, so that'll be good. But I mean, and I enjoyed it. It was good. Even the nurse, I was talking to the nurse about it, and she says like, "Oh, you have to give me that link. I want to go to the next one."
Oh my goodness. Oh, that just is amazing. Any other comments? I do want to break everyone out in some breakout groups so you get to know each other. I find that people enjoy that, and I such wonderful souls in this call. So when I break you out into random breakout rooms, I want you to discuss, are there any masks, any costumes that it's just, you just need help shedding? And if you're having doubts about it, I ask you to think like Oleg. Why not you? So if you like to start those conversations or get to know each other, I invite you to do so. So if you're not used to breakout,
the one thing that,
yeah, Quinn.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say the one thing that came up for me and with each story, and these again, like, you don't disappoint with your panel selection. So thank you for bringing this wonderful people, some of who I knew, some of who I don't know, together. But I'm always reminded of, if we all put all of our stuff out on our porch and we went out and we looked in the morning at what we are dealing with, we looked at what our neighbors were dealing with on either side, we grab our shit and get back inside as fast as we could. And to Oleg's point, we're all dealing with something, and what that is and where we are on that journey is different. And so, Don asked for the kindness for her mom. Like I think of everyone who has done me wrong or done ill by me. Like I do wish them. I know, like, it's the bully that's crying for love the most. That's that either we're either expressing love or we're crying out for it. And I think that's if we can stay on that path, things will get better.
Thanks for sharing, Quinn. Absolutely agree. Anything else from anyone? Alrighty. So we'll get into some breakout rooms. See if I remember how to do this. Here we go. And we'll do about 10 minutes or so, and then it will give you a message when a timer countdown when you're about to be zapped back into this big room. So don't be surprised. So let's see. So sign. Oh, well, that's not going to work. Hold on. I just put one breakout room, which would be this.
We're already here.
All right, let's see. 4. Okay, here we go. Hey, Quinn. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Did you realize you put us all in one breakout room?
No.
It was so funny because like people kept popping up. I'm like, no way, I'm in a room with Oleg. No way, I'm in a room with Don. No, I'm in all. I was like, oh wait, I'm in a room with everybody. So you can do one of two things. You can end it, and everybody will come back, and then you can resort it, or you can let everybody hang out in that room. But I figure, you know, you're hanging out here all by your lonesome, while everybody else is in the other room. So
Okay, I appreciate the heads up. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay. I'll bring. Oh, well, we all needed to smile. This was
Yes, the joys of hosting. Well, Fern made sure we smiled, so that was all good.
Are we all coming back together?
It's okay.
I love
You
it.
pranked us. It's Halloween.
Yes.
That was fun.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I don't think there's anything to be sorry about.
I'm so
Oh.
glad someone
all part
came
of the
and tell me.
It's all part of the experience,
Mhm.
and I think you were meant to experience it in the way that you have, in my opinion. Seriously, it's like mistakes and all of that. It's just all part of the journey. Nothing's ever perfect. Nothing ever will be.
Thank you for that, Oleg.
It's real.
That's what makes it fun. Is
Mhm.
this like all the hiccups, the laughter? Look at all the unexpected laughter that you've created.
I wish I could say that was planned. Oh my goodness.
Well executed.
I am
Yeah.
like laughing and have tears. Thank you so much, Quinn, again for coming on and letting me know. We were gonna try this again. Okay, I promise. We're gonna try this again. Okay. Recreate.
I
Thank
really
you.
did like the group though. I was like, oh, he's here and she's here. Oh, you're all here.
We're all here.
Yeah.
Okay, fingers crossed. And if you're still all together, please just let me know, and then we'll just do this all together. Okay.
Good.
All right. Here we go.
I'm in room 2, so there's more than one room.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Hi, Nuria. Can you hear me? Hi. Can you hear me?
I can, yes, I can.
Yay. So
I'm too late.
no. The people are in break. We're in the last half hour, so I put people in
Okay.
breakout rooms. So let me
Okay.
see if I can assign you to one. I'm so new at this.
I'm so sorry I could not make it earlier.
No worries.
I hope it's working all good.
Yes, it was. And we have one at the end of every month. So thank you for being here. Let me see if I can assign you to a room. Okay, hopefully this works. Did you get it?
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Andrea.
Great.
I see you, JC. Hey.
Welcome back.
Hey,
Everyone,
hey.
go ahead and unmute. Everyone can unmute. So how did that go? You were each in your rooms. There were actually 4 rooms this time. So that was great.
Great.
Yeah, no, go.
No,
Go
I
for
just
it.
want to say thank you so much, because I was telling in my group, I had Dawn in there, and I showed up because I was here to support Dawn. I was so proud to see her picture on there, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just know she's a words girl, and I always look to her words, and they're always so thoughtful and so caring. So I came here for Dawn, yay. And then I always feel guilty because I'm like, dude, I came here for me because I needed to hear every single thing that y'all said. Every month you just grab me where I'm at, and just thank you, Andrea. Thank you
guys.
all of you for sharing too. Like, whoa.
And I'll extend an invitation to every single one of you. So let's connect not only to each other, but let's connect to me, and how we can create that conversation that's going to create that impact not only that we want to have in our lives, but also what we want to do for others. It's like the mission statement that I go by every single day, which is, if I help you, you help me, then we help we. I truly believe in that.
Thank you, Chris. Any other inspiring thoughts that came out of your groups?
Well, I really loved what Alicia said about the difference between the mask and the hats, because we do all wear different hats, because we have to, we're in a family, so we wear the hats for who we are there, and we're in our professional lives, and we're with our friends. So it is a difference, but it isn't that it's ungenuine, right? Because the mask is that you're pretending to be something that you're really not, or you're hiding, whereas a hat is just like a role that you're functioning in, but you're still genuinely you. And I thought that was a really cool conversation in our group.
I love that.
I really like that as well. Yeah. We I was lucky enough to have 2 current speakers and 1 former speaker in Roger. One of the things that I was thinking about was just that. It doesn't need to be labeled as bad or good. Masks can be useful and can be a service to us. Really, it starts becoming negative when we start using it as a crutch, right? And it starts creating how you define yourself. Then you start entering into something that you might need to address, right? But if you still know who you are, and you're still being who you are, and you're utilizing them as tools to communicate, to be a better human, then I think that's a fine thing.
It's okay to be who you are, to be who we are. It's okay. I think David, I at the very end said something about it's okay to be weird. Thank you. I am weird. And I used to get called that a whole lot in my life, and I used to like hide from that. Now I'm embracing it. It's okay to be who you are, y'all.
I also think, to expand upon JC's and Brenda's point, is, there's power in being powerless. There's comfort in those moments where you feel powerless. That's what I've learned. And I think that's one of the beauties is, as JC had mentioned, it's all about how you're choosing to look at the mask. Like, what does the mask really mean for you? Because it could be a hell of a tool. I shared in our group times where, I had to have conversations with my parents that I didn't want to fully express the truth because I didn't even know how to say the words. So I used other stories to communicate the truth, when eventually 50 stories later, they're like, just tell me, like, what's going on? So in those moments, I realized that the mask served its purpose because it allowed me to develop enough confidence to step into that full truth. So it's not really, this is my opinion and my experience of it, but I'm choosing to look at the mask as not something that's meant to be viewed through a negative lens, but it's a tool. It's something that can be used in a incredible and just really fascinating way. I mean, some of those deeper conversations that I know are still within me that I haven't found the words to say to people. People disappoint many people. I disappoint people. So it's like, that's a real conversation. And there's certain people in my life that I know I haven't found the words just yet. So I am wearing a mask. Absolutely. But I don't know where I'm going with that, but that was just that was the thing that came to mind. It's just that, you know, it all serves a purpose at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not I know what that purpose is. That's really not the point. I think the point is more so is that there's always a purpose. Whenever it reveals itself, awesome. One other thing I want to say, and I do not want to dominate the conversation, but Quinn, I really want to thank you for showing up as who you are. As long as I've known you, you know, you like that phrase, you get what you pay for. You're that. You always show up. You're always you. And I don't know, there's just something really fascinating about who you are as a human being, even in moments where we've had those conversations on the deeper level where neither of us know what the hell we're doing in X, Y, and Z situation. But like, we're both there and we're both holding space. And I really wanted to acknowledge you for that. You're a really fascinating human being. And I'm very fortunate to have shared this journey with you.
Thank you for that. I feel the same way, and about this group. I mean, but yeah, I'll accept that because it's hard for me to accept, you know, kind words sometimes. But I'll take that. The one thing that's interesting, and to your point, like what came up for me with the idea of masks. There's a great book called The Alter Ego Effect, and there's certain people. Like one of my favorite stories is Bo Jackson. If you ask Bo Jackson never played one down of football. He had an alter ego, and he talks about it. And I think that this is another way where sometimes the mask we wear, you know, we can be somebody bigger than who we think we are. And by pretending to be that person, we can do things beyond ourselves. And then you get to a point where, guess what? You get to take the mask off, and you are that person that is doing those great things, but it can help you. And so, the thing we talked about in our group that I brought up was masks are okay when we are in control of the mask that we put on and how long we wear it and why we're wearing it and what we're doing. If we have to put it on for somebody else or because of some other situation that we're not in control of, then that's where we give that power, just like we give our own power to somebody else. So, I do think, masks are not good or bad. It's just how we decide for ourselves we're going to use them, to help ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Quinn. And I agree with Oleg 100%. So I shared in our group that I recently started a new job, and it's all ties and suits and business and coaching executives, and I choose to put that on. Like, I choose to wear that walking into the room and visiting our clients, not because I depend on their approval of me as a person, but because it's a strategic step to take, because I know they need to see that to sort of open up and allow me to influence. But it doesn't mean that I depend on their opinions, and I know that I am enough. So once I've created that space for myself, I am able to fill it with who I truly am. Yeah.
True, Jenny. Thank you guys so much. I feel invigorated, re-energized. I feel like I've shed tears of joy, but yet tears of sadness, and gosh, all the roller coaster of emotions in just 2 hours. But I really appreciate each and every one of you. We will continue to do these. always the last Saturday of each month. I know the holidays are coming. If you can make it, great. If not, I will be here, even if I'm talking to myself, I will still be here. So thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.